Cellular news. Key CD Projekt Red executives quit. Now they're ready to fight. Fight what? Fight against CD Projekt Red and the wokeism with us? Are they on our side now? Let's see what they got to say. I want to hear this, man. I want to hear it. I want to feel it. They need to feel it. They need to feel the burn from all of the hurt they've put in my heart over the years. I remember when Witcher 3 launched. I remember that shit. Nobody does. Everybody acts like Witcher 3 was amazing. 10 out of 10. Best game ever. I remember it was an absolute disaster when it launched. So much so that they released its DLC for free. As an apology. Nobody remember that? I do.
These headlines have got a lot of attention, and it's pretty obvious why. They look rough. At first glance, it seems that the directors, a lot of leads from The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077, along with others, are leaving CD Projekt Red. And indeed, as you'll soon find out, yeah, plenty have, and they are doing new companies. But that's not to say that the company is in its death throes. Far from it. If you look at recent investor reports, you see they've sold 30 million units of Cyberpunk 2077 and 8 million of Phantom Liberty. That's a 26% attach rate, which for an expansion is honestly absolutely insane and almost unheard of. Then, the success of Edge Runners is being followed up with another Netflix project. Their stock price, something we all enjoyed following during the Cyberpunk debacle, has shot up 71% in 2024, and perhaps the most important metric, profitability, was 34%.
They better hope that people like The Witcher 4, because that stock price probably gonna go.
So, today's video's got a mission. How the hell can we reconcile this? Rough headlines, people who had major impacts on major games leaving the company, yet the company seeming to be in a pretty healthy state. And you could say that presents us with a challenge. How do we reconcile these things?
Wait,
Are the headlines right? Are they wrong? Turns out, those headlines are true. They are true, those people left. But they left CD Projekt Red 3 years ago. Yes, a lot of those headlines are spread around right now, but actually, those happened in the past. And a lot of those people left after the disastrous launch of Cyberpunk. That is actually so long ago that these new companies are actually not new. CD Projekt Red has shipped plenty of content in their absence, but it's not just that they left. It's that they left at the perfect time. So, Cyberpunk 2077 was announced in 2012. Pre-production began in 2016 as Witcher 3 was wrapping up, and 4 years later, December 2020, the game launched. And
I think they left so they wouldn't have to have any part to do with the next Cyberpunk game. Because I think that it's going to be an even worse disaster than The Witcher 3 and then the worst disaster of Cyberpunk 2077. It somehow ended up being worse than Witcher 3 at the launch. I remember I was there. I was there for Cyberpunk also. One of my most anticipated games of all time, and it hurt me. So I don't trust them when it comes to Witcher 4. And people want to defend them and act like, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be the best game of all time. You're just seething. You're just mad because you're a bigot. No, I've been there every step of the way. I know how this company works. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be a disaster. Nobody's listening to me. Oh well, waste your money, fools! Be heard again, fools!
Sidebar, for a game of that scale, pre-production to release in 4 years is absolutely goddamn insane, especially since they planned to actually launch the game months earlier in April of 2020. Of course, we know what happened. The staff crunched hard, they really burnt out, and all of that effort only for the last-gen console version of the game to be such a disaster that to this very day, it still carries store warnings, and for Sony to pull the game from PSN, something which for a major release, I'm pretty sure was unprecedented. Then, at the time, management asked people at the company for more, to save the company from the problem it found itself in. Of course, a problem it found itself in because of that same management. And in response, some people quit. And this is something leadership acknowledged in public. The co-CEO explained to Eurogamer, and this is a quote, "For some people, of course, there was no buy-in from the get-go." That's after the launch. They were just burnt, and they had the right to it. Some people decided to leave, some people stayed for a little bit and decided to leave later on. And you see, that's the thing. Leaving after your game project has shipped is a completely normal, natural thing. That is the natural leaving point. But Cyberpunk's launch just would add fuel to that. Now, if you're a rank and file employee, think about the incentives. You do actually have the prospect of making Cyberpunk right and continuing to grow at the company that is giving you a reason to stay. But if you're already at the top of that company, where else can you go? What can you do? Well, the answer in today's market would be likely nowhere, because there is less opportunity. But in the years of 2020 and 2021, things were entirely different. What got most headlines was CD Projekt Red rebuilding itself.
Seems like big names are quitting these companies left and right after these new games are coming out, and there's rumors of disaster. Funny how that works.
Liberty would involve some crunch, but according to staff leaks and interviews, the impression we get is that working conditions at the company actually did improve greatly. I mean, that Eurogamer interview covered the benefits of them moving to Unreal Engine, restructuring to be more agile so that they wouldn't run into humongous shit shows again. And if you're rank and file, that's great, but it was not enough for some leaders. Specifically, and I'll just do them on a first name basis because I don't want to mangle their surnames, there is Witcher 3 director Conrad, Cyberpunk game director Matuz, Witcher 3 producer Stan, and a fair few other people. But those three names that I just dropped each formed a company. Rebel Wolves from Conrad, Blank from Matuz, and Covenant.dev from Stan. Now, Conrad left CDPR in May 2021. HR had actually cleared him of bullying allegations internally, but he left due to staff feeling uncomfortable, I suppose him also feeling uncomfortable, whatever it was, seemingly not a great situation to work.
It sounds like a bunch of pussies being offended. That's what that sounds like. That's really what it is, man. Even if it's not that, that's what it sounds like to me. It's gonna be bad.
A year later, he would resurface at the head of a new company called Rebel Wolves. At Rebel Wolves, he was joined by key Witcher 3 people, like an art director, animation director, and other pretty senior staff in that project. And the game concept they're doing absolutely fits their experience. They had announced a dark fantasy CRPG made in Unreal Engine 5. And since that release, they've actually grown.
You mean the real Witcher 4?
Came in. NetEase came in and they invested in 2023. That money no doubt helped them grow. And as an example, Conrad's brother, a 14-year CDPR vet who had actually just spent 2 years on Riot's MMO team, well, he joined in January 2024. Those are the basics for Rebel Wolves. I'll absolutely be back to them later because they play a major role. But that's far from all the companies. As an example, Cyberpunk game director Matuz, along with ex-CDPR executives and producers, well, they formed Blank. They announced their company in 2023, and it's not really like Rebel Wolves in terms of the game that they're doing. They're going post-apocalyptic, they're not doing an open-world game, and they want to avoid well-trodden ground. Of course, when I think about post-apocalypse, I'm either thinking about having a good old time with the lads in Australia or, well, Fallout. If we're going to have some sort of Slavic post-apocalypse, oh boy, I'm down for that. Seems pretty cool. And in terms of backing and money, they've actually picked up some pretty damn serious stuff in the form of NeoWiz. You may not have heard of them, but you've certainly heard of their most recent big game.
I'm bitching a lot about these companies that we all used to love going to shit. But we've got all these new companies coming out with new games that we love that are not shit. And I love that. Eventually, these companies will go to shit. And other companies will take their place. And I'm just gonna keep making fun of the downfall of all the shit companies. Like now, even From Software is starting to shitify. Hopefully, they're not really. It's just starting to feel like it with that new Elden Ring not sequel. It kind of feels like some shovelware to get people to play an online game.
They were co-developer and publisher of Lies of P. They purchased a 21% stake in that company for $17 million. Okay, that's two new companies that have attracted major investment that do have games coming up. But there is a third company, a company that came before either of these ones that has actually released a game. They're called Covenant.dev. They began in 2020, and like the others, they did trade a little bit on their well-earned reputation. The CEO Stan had produced Witcher 3. So here's their game. It's called Gord. It's actually came out. It's a city builder RPG. It was published by Team 17, and it seems they wanted a city builder RPG with survival elements. That all does sound pretty cool to me, but it's fair to say that it's not really worked out. Receptions have been mixed. Literally, it's at 52% lifetime in Steam. When you take a look at the quantity of reviews, it does indicate that we're not really dealing with a lot of sales here. It's safe to say that this is a bet that did not pay off, but it's one that does explain their next game, which is this. Suffice to say, it is not a dark game. It is an open-world, crafting, survival, base-building game that is targeting early access, that, unlike the darkness, is far more...
It's got kind of a Nightmare Before Christmas feel to it, it looks like, but more colorful. Like, especially with those swirls. I kind of like it, but it's still got that, like, purple woke look to it that all these woke games are doing. Why? Why do we need that? Why do they all look the same? Where are they all drawing from for this inspiration, for this art inspiration? I want to know. Like, are they just all copying each other? Or are they all using the same artist? What the hell is going on with this?
Positive, hopeful fantasy looking. So that's what they're doing. I have a feeling it's not of the most appeal to the core CD Projekt Red audience, which is why, well, we've got to talk about Rebel Wolves, because they are the next big thing, or at least that's what they want to be. Rebel Wolves had a big announcement, and it's this: a deal with Bandai Namco, who of course were the international publisher of Elden Ring. That happened in October 2024, and it came along with a game update. Their dark fantasy CRPG was now a dark fantasy action RPG, which I'm going to assume means less Baldur's Gate, more Witcher 3, which very much is what that team would know given what they worked on, and it's a damn strong pitch. If you're going to get not quite Witcher, but made by the same people, probably launching before CD Projekt Red's sequel, right, Witcher 4, well, that actually does seem quite strong. Their marketing is also pitch perfect, and with a name like Rebel Wolves and a history like theirs, they stand to gain from anything Witcher that CD Projekt Red does. And that's why so many people are only just finding out about them now. And if you're not sure about the wolf connection, well, there's the obvious thing. Girls, you know, wolf medallion. He is of the school of the wolf. It is all pretty well told if you basically want people to have a really strong association, and a positive one, with your company. And all of this is just in time for what is going to be their most important event yet. That is the reveal and CGI trailer of their game, January 13th, 2025. 1 year after they did the name reveal of their game.
I cannot tell you how much I hate CGI trailers with no gameplay. Especially trailers like The Witcher 4 that still are very inconsistent and have garbage animations. And it's still not gameplay.
Which is blood.
Just give me gameplay for games. I'm not watching a movie here.
Will this game compete with Witcher 4? The answer is absolutely not. It won't have anywhere near the budget, but also it literally won't compete with Witcher 4 because of this funny little thing called time. Witcher 4 only entered production late 2024, and they even framed their trailer as running on, quote, unreleased Nvidia hardware. That makes me think that this game may not even launch on this console gen, which after...
It's probably going to... Not The Witcher, the other game that people are saying is going to be to compete with The Witcher. Probably not. It's probably going to be more to compete with games like Avowed.
Everything with Cyberpunk going cross-gen, I think CD Projekt Red wouldn't really want to do. And also, let's be real, a lot of people have taken a look at Unreal Engine 5, and we all know the amazing benefits, the insane power of that engine, but also that it has been associated with some issues in current-gen hardware. But of course...
And it's making all these games have the same issues, the same bugs, same visuals, everything looks the same, everything feels the same. I hate Unreal Engine. I love Unreal Engine. I just hate that so many big games are using it. I don't care that much if small games are using it, because developers get creative when they're small developers and they don't have a team and they have to do things weird to get games put out. But when big companies, big teams are using Unreal, they're just using it to cut corners and save money.
If you're watching our videos, you've probably noticed there's another connection here, that there's something else going on. Another studio that was recently founded by the creators of a renowned RPG and that was funded by NetEase that just died. The answer, by the way, if you didn't watch that video, is Humanoid Origin. They were founded by Casey Hudson, you know, dude behind Mass Effect. But they're dead. NetEase pulled their funding, it seems. It all collapsed. But here's where it's interesting, because compared to them, Rebel Wolf and Blank have a trick up their sleeve. And this is the big trend that is going to change the games industry. It's going to be good for the games that we get. And it truly, truly is different. Late pandemic and post-pandemic, money was absolutely everywhere. Money was cheap, investment soared, and this led to countless veteran AAA developers striking out and being able to find the funding to make their own high-quality games and found their own teams. Still AAA-like budgets, but tighter scopes. And these ex-CDPR leaders found themselves poised to exploit this opportunity. But even better for them, they are not in North America. And that does actually matter. Here's an example and a reason why. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 was developed for half of the cost of Doom Eternal, even though obviously it was developed quite a bit after Doom Eternal, and, you know, wage prices, all that only went up as time moved on. But no, it was developed for half the cost of Doom Eternal, even though it had a larger team and it wasn't made faster. The reasons why? St. Petersburg, Russia, Yerevan, Belarus. Those were the core development locations for the game, and I believe they're just
I think the games industry in America is just done. I think the West is done. I think Western game developers are just done. They've destroyed themselves because of greed and social media points. Straight up. Asia's killing us, man. Asia and Russia destroying us.
a tad cheaper than Austin, Texas, where id is based. Of course, if you're Blizzard, if you're Riot, if you are the people behind Dauntless, was it Phoenix Labs, any of those companies who are in California, or like our BioWare crew, are also in the Canadian market, where you have extremely high costs of living, some of the most expensive from a property perspective cities on Earth. Boy howdy, it's expensive to make your video games because of wages. And that's where wage arbitrage is an important thing, and it's a hell of a competitive advantage. Rebel Wolves benefit from, obviously, different economies. They're in Poland. But even more importantly, they benefit from how CD Projekt Red grew the Polish game sector. Basically put simply, the wind was in their sails in every direction. As for CD Projekt Red, truth is we don't know how Witcher 4 will turn out. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of buzz, a lot of noise, yes, but the game's not out. We don't know what lore decisions will actually be. We don't know how they're going to deal with the things that people are either angry or excited about. We just don't know. It's a game.
I don't know how I'm going to feel about playing as a woman character. I don't like playing as women characters unless they're like customization characters that don't talk. Like in Baldur's Gate. I'm a woman currently in my playthrough right now, but I'm also technically not playing just as myself. I'm playing as 4 people. I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. Like, they have to make her really, really good. Like, they have to write her really, really well. Better than Geralt, seriously. If she's not as good as Geralt, then what was the point? What was the point in replacing Geralt? I don't get it. Or call it like The Witcher side story, Ciri. Don't call it The Witcher 4. Because you're straight up just trying to replace your male character with a woman. Just because you don't want your game to be a male anymore. You want a woman. That's pandering.
That's going to be way, way into the future. What we can do is take a look at the most recent work that company shipped. That's especially important because it's work that they shipped without any of the people who generated the headlines that spurred on today's video. That is, of course, Phantom Liberty. It is one of the most, yeah, buy this, you cannot go wrong deals in gaming these days. It's absolutely goddamn fantastic, and that includes from a writing perspective. The core people of Phantom Liberty are still at CD Projekt Red, and from what we've learned, the company does appear to be much better to work at. And I know some people will say, well, you know what, you goddamn entitled game developers, you gotta crunch to get the game done. But what a lot of people in software will then turn around and say is, yeah, but the problem is, games are so complex, and they really are, that if you start taking little hits here, little hits there, burning your people out more and more and more, all of that technical debt compounds, but it compounds exponentially, not linearly, and then you get the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, something that absolutely nobody wants. And funnily enough, it's where Rebel Wolves and Blank come into our story again. If you look at their websites, do you know what you see? As a core pillar, one of the things that they market, not on some small page you've got to click into via 100 links, no, what is on their front main page, putting developers first as a core pillar of the business. Now remember these people, remember their story. There was the sprint-paced marathon that was the development of Cyberpunk 2077, and that is on CDPR's leadership. It's pretty obvious that these people left in the wake of all of that going tits up. CD Projekt Red leadership have even admitted that in interviews. It's no surprise then that when Rebel Wolves, who are literally called Rebel Wolves, start their new company, that one of the things they talk about is no crunch, treating their developers right, all of that stuff right in their main page, because they're also trying to learn from the failures of the company that they left. Ultimately, what this means for you and me is real goddamn simple. Maybe Witcher 4 is going to be terrible, but maybe it'll be great, and they will have learnt those lessons, and Phantom Liberty sure does point in a pretty good direction. But even if that isn't the case, a lot of the great talent from that company has now got resources and has now got freedom. Do you know what the upshot means? A more diversified market, a more competitive market, more people competing for for your dollars, for my pounds, whatever your currency is. The upshot is more competition and we having a higher chance of getting more games that are better. And that's why, even though you may see a lot of drama, a lot of anger, the core of this is good news for the health of the games industry. That's it for this video. Check out this one next.
I just hope that they'd stop destroying these old franchises that we love. That's all I want. But if they don't, at least we are getting some new games from old franchises that we love in some cases, such as Baldur's Gate 3 and Space Marine 2, right there on the screen. So good. Still haven't played it, but so good. I watched a little bit of it. My friends played it and they loved it. Baldur's Gate 3, I'm about 150 hours in right now. So good. Borderlands 4, I hope they haven't destroyed themselves. Borderlands 3 almost did it. And then Tales from the Borderlands 2, it got even worse. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, oh, man, don't even get me started on that. Borderlands 4 better be good. That one's another one that I love that's just gone. It's dead and gone.